The explosion shattered every window in the galley. Kara Reyes hit the floor as shrapnel tore through the metal walls above her head. 15 seconds. That was all the time that had passed since the alarm sounded. 15 seconds since her world had gone from chopping vegetables to wondering if she would die before her 23rd birthday. But what the insurgents surrounding Forward Operating Base Rattlesnake did not know, what nobody on this base knew, was that the quiet cook who never talked about her past had skills that made her far more dangerous than any of them suspected. The second blast came from the northwest perimeter. Kara stayed flat against the concrete floor, her hands instinctively covering her head as dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the kitchen in red. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard screaming from somewhere outside, then the staccato crack of automatic weapons fire. Kara pushed herself up to her knees. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. 3 years. 3 years since she had heard that sound, since she had felt the concussive force of explosives, since her body had moved on pure instinct honed by training she was supposed to forget. She touched her neck, found her pulse. 62 beats per minute. The same calm rhythm she used to have before taking a shot. The alarm continued its mechanical wailing. Kara moved to the serving line and peered through the window that looked out onto the main compound. What she saw made her breath catch. The guard towers on the north and west sides were burning. Tracer rounds lit up the pre-dawn darkness like deadly fireflies. She counted at least 40 muzzle flashes from beyond the perimeter wire. Maybe more. This was not a probe. This was a coordinated assault. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you have witnessed similar acts of courage where you are from. Heavy boots pounded past the galley entrance. Kara recognized the digital camouflage pattern. Navy SEALs, moving fast toward the front gate. Their weapons were already up, scanning for targets. She counted 6 men. There should have been 8. The realization settled in her stomach like cold stone. Casualties already. A voice crackled over the base-wide speaker system. Major Hendricks, the base commander. This is not a drill. All non-essential personnel report to Bunker 3 immediately. Combat personnel to your assigned defensive positions. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack. The transmission cut off mid-sentence. Then came an explosion so massive it knocked Kara sideways into a stainless steel prep table. The command center. They had hit the command center. Kara steadied herself against the counter and looked out the window again. Where the 2-story operations building had stood 30 seconds ago, there was now only fire and twisted metal. Major Hendricks was dead. They all were. Everyone inside that building. Kara's hands gripped the counter edge. The metal was cool under her palms. Real. Solid. She forced herself to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way she had been taught. The way she had taught others back when teaching was what she did. Back when she wore a different uniform and people called her Sergeant instead of just Kara, the quiet girl who worked the breakfast shift. More footsteps. This time lighter, frantic. Private First Class Danny Ortiz burst through the galley entrance. The kid was 19 years old, fresh out of boot camp, assigned to the FOB kitchen detail just 2 weeks ago. His eyes were wide, his breathing rapid. He did not have his weapon. His hands were shaking. Kara, he gasped. What do we do? The bunker. We have to get to the bunker. Kara looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the terror in his face, the way his whole body trembled. 2 weeks ago, she had found him crying behind the supply shed. The senior cook, Staff Sergeant Paulson, had been riding him hard, called him useless, told him he would never make it in the real military, said he was wasting everyone's time. Kara had stayed late that night, shown Danny how to properly inventory supplies, taught him the shortcuts that made Paulson's impossible demands manageable. She had not said much. She never did. But Danny had stopped crying. He had looked at her with something like hope. Now that hope was drowning in fear. Listen to me, Kara said. Her voice was calm, steady. The voice that used to give range commands to soldiers who trusted her with their lives. You're going to Bunker 3. You're going to stay low, move fast, and you're not going to stop for anything. Do you understand? Danny nodded, but he did not move. His eyes were locked on the window, on the flames engulfing the compound. Danny, Kara said sharply. Look at me. He turned. She held his gaze. You're going to be okay, she said. But you need to move now. Go. What about you? He whispered. Kara did not answer immediately. Through the window, she could see the SEALs at the main gate. They were taking up defensive positions behind concrete barriers, spreading out to create overlapping fields of fire. Professional. Efficient. Exactly the way she would have positioned them. But there were only 6 of them. 6 against 40, maybe 50. The math was brutal. I will be right behind you, Kara lied. Now go. Danny ran. Kara watched him disappear into the smoke-filled compound, heading toward the bunker on the south side. He kept his head down, just like she had told him. Good. Maybe you would make it. She turned back to the window. The SEALs were yelling coordinates to each other, their voices barely audible over the gunfire. She recognized the team leader, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Vance. She had seen him in the chow line every morning for the past 8 months. He always took his coffee black, never made eye contact, treated the kitchen staff like furniture. Necessary, but beneath notice. He was a professional warrior. She was just the cook. Except she was not. Not really. Had never been just a cook. Kara moved to the storage room at the back of the galley. She knew exactly what she was looking for. The ration crates were stacked against the far wall, 60 pounds each, designed to be moved by 2 people. Kara shoved 3 of them aside with controlled force, revealing the concrete wall behind. There, at the bottom corner, was what she needed. A loose cinder block. She pulled it free. Behind the cinder block was a small space. Inside that space was a black nylon bag, 18 inches long, waterproofed, sealed with paracord. Kara had hidden it here 3 days after arriving at FOB Rattlesnake. 8 months ago, she had told herself she would never need it, had convinced herself that part of her life was over. She pulled the bag free and unzipped it. Inside was a disassembled rifle scope. Leupold Mark IV, 6-24 power magnification, milled reticle. Military issue. The same scope she had used for 3 years before everything fell apart. She had told herself she kept it as a reminder. A reminder of what she had lost, what had been taken from her, what she had walked away from. But that was a lie. She had kept it because some part of her had always known this day would come. The day when hiding would no longer be an option. When the only choice was to fight or die. Another explosion rocked the base. Closer this time. The enemy was tightening the noose. Kara zipped the bag closed and slung it over her shoulder. She moved back to the serving line and looked out at the battle unfolding across the compound. The sky was beginning to lighten. Dawn in 40 minutes. When the sun came up, the attackers would be able to see every defensive position clearly. The SEALs would be exposed, vulnerable. Without support, without reinforcements, they would be overrun within the hour. Kara closed her eyes. She saw faces, the faces of students she had trained, young soldiers who had trusted her to make them better, to teach them the skills that would keep them alive in the worst places on earth. She saw the face of Private First Class Jeremy Caldwell, 22 years old, who had died on the range when his rifle exploded during a training exercise. An accident, they had called it. A tragic malfunction. But Kara had known the truth, had tried to tell them, and they had buried her along with the real story. She opened her eyes. The faces were gone. Only the present remained. The burning base, the surrounded SEALs, the enemy closing in. And somewhere in Bunker 3, Danny Ortiz was probably praying to survive until morning. Kara Reyes made her decision. She headed for the door, the scope bag tight against her shoulder. The alarm was still screaming. The base was dying, and the quiet cook who never talked about her past was about to become someone else entirely. Someone she had sworn never to be again. But this time, she would do it on her own terms. No politics, no lies, just the pure mathematics of distance, wind, and bullet drop. The only truth she had ever fully trusted. She stepped out into the smoke and chaos and disappeared into the shadows between the burning buildings. The smoke was thick enough to taste. Kara moved along the eastern wall of the galley, staying low, using the building's shadow for concealment. Muscle memory guided her movements. Scan, move, scan. Never stay exposed for more than 3 seconds. The training was still there, buried under 8 months of peeling potatoes and serving scrambled eggs, waiting to resurface the moment her life depended on it. Another burst of gunfire erupted from the main gate. Kara dropped to one knee behind a concrete barrier and assessed the situation. The FOB was roughly circular, 400 meters across, surrounded by HESCO barriers and concertina wire. The main gate faced north. That was where the SEALs had concentrated their defense. Smart. It was the only vehicle entrance, the most likely avenue of attack. But Kara could see muzzle flashes from 3 sides now. The enemy had surrounded them. She watched Chief Vance directing his men. Even from 60 meters away, she could see the precision in his movements. He pointed left, and 2 SEALs immediately shifted position to cover a gap in their perimeter. He hand-signaled right, and another SEAL moved to higher ground on top of a supply container. This was a man who had done this before. Many times, in places far worse than this. The radio on Vance's vest crackled. Kara could not hear the words, but she saw his body language change. His shoulders tensed. His head tilted down slightly. Bad news. Very bad news. He keyed his mic and spoke, then looked up at the burning command center. When he turned back to his men, his expression was hard. Set. The expression of someone who had just been told there was no cavalry coming. They were on their own. Kara continued moving, circling toward the eastern bunker line. The armory was on the far side of the compound, near the motor pool. If she could reach it, she would have options. Real options. But between her and the armory was 200 meters of open ground, currently being swept by enemy fire. She would need to time it perfectly, wait for their attention to shift, move during a lull. She never got the chance. The mortar round hit 30 feet to her left. The blast wave picked her up and threw her against the galley wall. Her head cracked against concrete. White light exploded behind her eyes. For a moment, she could not breathe, could not see, could not think. Then her training kicked in again. She forced air into her lungs, blinked until her vision cleared, checked herself for injuries. Her shoulder throbbed where it had hit the wall, but nothing was broken. Nothing was bleeding. She could still move. She pushed herself to her feet and kept going. No time to recover. No time to think about how close that had been. Move or die. Those are the only options. The armory door was reinforced steel, locked with a keypad. Kara pulled out the card she always kept in her pocket. Her kitchen access card. It should not work on the armory. Should not even register. But 8 months ago, when she first arrived at FOB Rattlesnake, she had spent 3 nights studying the base security system, had identified a flaw in the access control software, had exploited it. The card beeped green. The lock clicked open. Old habits. Inside, the armory was organized chaos. Rifles racked on the walls. Ammunition crates stacked floor to ceiling. Body armor hanging on hooks. Kara moved through it with purpose. She grabbed an M4 carbine first. Checked the action. Smooth. Clean. Loaded a 30-round magazine and chamber round. The weapon felt comfortable in her hands. Too comfortable. Like picking up a cigarette after years of quitting. One touch, and all the old addiction came flooding back. But she needed more than an M4. She moved deeper into the armory, past the standard infantry weapons, toward the specialized equipment locker. This door had a different lock. A combination. Kara had watched the armorer open it exactly once, 6 months ago. Had memorized the sequence from across the room. 472915. The lock opened. Inside was what she needed. An M110 semi-automatic sniper system. 7.62 millimeter. Effective range of 800 meters. Suppressed barrel. 20-round magazine. The same rifle she had qualified expert on 3 years running. The same rifle she had used to train 47 soldiers who had all gone on to become some of the finest marksmen in the United States Army. She pulled the rifle from its rack and checked it over with practiced efficiency. Clean, oiled, ready. She grabbed 4 magazines, a tactical vest, and a rangefinder. loaded the magazines with match-grade ammunition. 160 rounds total. If she needed more than that, she was already dead. The scope bag was still on her shoulder. She pulled out her personal Leupold and mounted it on the M110's rail system. Tightened it down with the Allen wrench she kept in the bag. Adjusted the eye relief. Set the magnification to 12 power. Zeroed the turrets to her preferred settings. The whole process took 90 seconds. She had done it so many times she could do it blind. When she stood, she was no longer Kara Reyes, the quiet cook from the galley. She was Sergeant Kara Reyes, United States Army, former sniper instructor, Fort Benning School of Infantry. The woman who had once shot a perfect score at the International Sniper Competition. The woman who had trained more successful snipers than anyone else in her unit. The woman who had been destroyed by politics and lies and men who cared more about covering their mistakes than honoring the truth. She pushed those thoughts away. They did not matter now. Only the mission mattered. Only survival. Kara moved to the armory door and cracked it open. The firefight at the main gate had intensified. She could hear the distinctive sound of a SAW, a squad automatic weapon, laying down suppressing fire. That would be the SEALs trying to keep the enemy from rushing their position. But suppressing fire only worked if you had ammunition. And from the pattern of fire, they were already starting to ration their rounds. She scanned the compound, looking for high ground. There, the water tower on the southeast corner. 30 feet tall, steel construction, clear sight lines to the main gate and beyond. It was exposed, vulnerable to counterfire, but it would give her the angle she needed. She could see the entire battlefield from up there. Could provide overwatch. Could make a difference. Maybe. Kara stepped out of the armory and began moving toward the tower. She stayed in the shadows, moved during the lulls between incoming fire, used every piece of cover the compound offered. Twice, she had to freeze as enemy rounds impacted near her position. Once she had to detour around a burning Humvee. But she kept moving. Always forward. Always toward the tower. She was halfway there when she heard the scream. A woman's voice, high and terrified, coming from the direction of Bunker 3. Kara stopped, turned. Through the smoke, she could see figures near the bunker entrance. 3 insurgents. They had breached the perimeter. They were inside the wire, and they were heading for the bunker where all the non-combat personnel were hiding. Where Danny Ortiz was hiding. Kara raised the M110. The closest insurgent was 70 meters away, moving fast, AK-47 in his hands. She put the crosshairs on his center mass, controlled her breathing, squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. The suppressor reduced the sound to a sharp crack instead of a roar. The insurgent dropped. The other 2 spun around, searching for the shooter. Kara was already moving, shifting position, using an equipment shed for cover. She came around the corner and fired twice more. Both insurgents went down. 3 shots, 3 kills. Clinical, efficient, exactly the way she had been trained. She approached the bodies carefully, weapon up, ready for any movement. All 3 were dead. She recognized the insignia on their uniforms. Not standard Taliban. These were Haqqani Network. Professional fighters. Well-equipped. Well-trained. This was not some random attack. This was planned. Coordinated. Surgical. Someone had sent a trained assault force to destroy FOB Rattlesnake. The question was why. The FOB was strategically insignificant. A supply depot and rest station for units rotating through the province. There were no high-value targets here. No sensitive intelligence. No reason for this level of effort. Unless the target was not the base itself. Unless the target was specific. Personal. Kara's blood went cold. She looked toward the main gate, toward the 6 Navy SEALs fighting for their lives against overwhelming odds. Chief Vance and his team. They were not just defending a random base. They were the target. Someone wanted them dead. Wanted them dead badly enough to throw 50 fighters at a hardened position in a coordinated night assault. She keyed into the command frequency on the radio she had taken from the armory. "This is Reyes," she transmitted. 3 enemy Kia near Bunker 3. Perimeter is breached. They're inside the wire. There was a long pause. Then Chief Vance's voice came back, hard and suspicious. Who the hell is Reyes? Identify yourself. Kara hesitated. Once she answered, there was no going back. Once they knew who she was, what she could do, everything would change. The quiet cook would disappear forever. The past she had run from would catch up. All the questions she had avoided for 8 months would demand answers. But through the smoke and fire, she could see the SEALs at the gate. Outnumbered, running low on ammunition, fighting against an enemy that would not stop until every last one of them was dead. She made her choice. I am the cook, she said, and I am on the water tower. You have targets approaching from your 7 o'clock. Adjust fire left. There was another pause. Then Vance's voice again, this time with an edge of disbelief. The cook? What the hell are you doing with a rifle? Keeping you alive, Kara replied. She climbed onto the water tower ladder and began ascending. The metal rungs were cold under her hands. Below her, the base burned. Above her, the sky was beginning to lighten with the coming dawn. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the wire, an enemy force was preparing to kill everyone she had sworn never to protect again. But promises made to yourself were easy to break when the alternative was watching good people die. Kara reached the top of the tower and settled into position. She extended the bipod on the M110 and laid the rifle across the tower's railing. Through her scope, the battlefield came into sharp focus. She could see everything now, every enemy position, every muzzle flash, every threat. She chambered around and began her count. Breathe, aim, squeeze. The cook was gone. The sniper had returned. The first shot was the hardest, not because of the distance or the wind or the darkness, because it meant admitting who she really was, what she had always been, underneath the apron and the silence and the careful pretense of being someone forgettable. Kara settled the crosshairs on an insurgent positioning a rocket-propelled grenade launcher 200 meters beyond the wire. Center mass. Wind negligible. No adjustment needed. She exhaled half a breath and squeezed the trigger. The M110 kicked. Through the scope, she watched the man drop. The RPG clattered to the ground unfired. One threat eliminated. 14 to go. She swept the scope left, scanning for the next target. The enemy was using a coordinated fire and movement pattern. 3-man teams, one providing cover while 2 advanced. Professional tactics. These were not farmers with AK-47s. These were trained soldiers, and they were executing a textbook assault on a fortified position. Kara found her next target, an insurgent barking orders to the teams on his flanks. Squad leader. High value. She adjusted for the 250-meter distance and fired. The suppressor kept her position concealed. The man fell. Confusion rippled through his squad. They stopped advancing, looking for direction that would never come. At the main gate, Chief Vance's voice crackled over the radio. Unknown shooter, what is your position? Water tower southeast, Kara transmitted. I have eyes on the entire perimeter. Identify yourself properly, Vance demanded. Rank and unit. Kara hesitated. The truth would raise more questions than it answered. But lies would get people killed. Civilian contractor, she said. Former military. I know what I'm doing. It was not exactly a lie. She had been military, and now she was definitely not. Vance did not respond immediately. Kara could imagine his thoughts. A civilian contractor who happened to be an expert marksman, who happened to have military-grade weapons and equipment, who happened to be taking professional shots in the middle of a firefight. The story did not add up, but he was smart enough to know that questioning her could wait until after they all survived. Copy that, Vance finally said. We have hostiles massing on our northwest corner. Can you engage? Kara swung her rifle toward the northwest. Through her scope, she counted 12 insurgents taking cover behind a destroyed Humvee. They were preparing to rush the SEAL position. If they made it to the gate, it would turn into close-quarters combat. 6 SEALs against 12 attackers. Bad odds, even for the best. I see them, Kara transmitted. Engaging now. She picked her targets carefully. The one with the radio first. Cut off their communications. Then the 2 carrying belt-fed machine guns. Eliminate their heavy firepower. She fired 3 times in 6 seconds. 3 men down. The remaining insurgents scattered, their coordinated assault broken before it began. "Good shooting," Vance said. His voice carried a note of respect now. "Whoever you are." Kara did not respond. She was already scanning for new threats. Movement on the eastern perimeter. For insurgents trying to flank the SEAL position by moving through the motor pool. She tracked them through her scope. 200 meters. Clear shot. She fired twice. 2 down. The other 2 dove for cover behind a truck. Then something changed. The insurgents stopped advancing. All of them. Simultaneously. Across the entire perimeter, the enemy forces went to ground. The gunfire decreased from a roar to sporadic shots. Kara swept her scope across the battlefield, trying to understand what was happening. That was when she saw him. A man standing 250 meters beyond the northern wire. He was not taking cover, was not firing, just standing there, visible in the growing light of dawn, watching the base through binoculars. He wore different gear than the other fighters. Newer, better quality, and the way the other insurgents oriented toward him, waiting for his commands, told Kara everything she needed to know. Commander. This was the man running the assault. She centered her crosshairs on his chest. Her finger moved to the trigger. One shot. She could end this right now. Kill the leader and watch the attack fall apart. But something made her pause. The way he stood. The way he held himself. There was something familiar about his posture. Something that triggered a memory she could not quite place. She adjusted her scope to maximum magnification, bringing his face into focus. Her breath caught. She knew him. Not his name. Not his face exactly. But she knew the type. The bearing. The cold, calculated way he studied the battlefield. She had seen men like this before. In briefings. In classified intelligence reports. In the faces of high-value targets she had been ordered to identify and track. This was not some local commander. This was a professional. Someone with training. Someone with resources. Someone with a specific objective that went beyond simply destroying a remote FOB. The commander lowered his binoculars and pulled out a radio. He spoke into it, gestured toward the base, then pointed directly at the main gate. Directly at the SEALs. Kara watched as every insurgent force reoriented their positions. The attack was not stopping. It was refocusing, concentrating all firepower on a single point. They were not trying to take the base. They were trying to kill Chief Vance and his team. Kara keyed her radio. "Chief, they are consolidating for a major push on your position. All forces converging on the main gate." "How many?" Vance asked. "All of them," Kara said. "Maybe 40 fighters. They are coming for you specifically." There was a pause. Then Vance's voice came back, quieter. "How do you know that?" "Because their commander is not interested in the base," Kara said. "He is interested in you. This is a kill mission." She expected Vance to argue, to demand proof. Instead, he just said, "Copy. We will hold as long as we can." "How much ammunition do you have up there?" "Karachikit harvest." 3 full magazines remaining plus the one in her rifle. 80 rounds. Not enough. Not nearly enough for what was coming. "I can make it count," she said. The enemy commander raised his hand. Even from 250 meters, Kara could see the gesture clearly. A chopping motion. Forward. Attack. The insurgents came out of cover as one. 40 fighters, moving in coordinated teams, laying down suppressing fire as they advanced toward the gate. The SEALs returned fire, their shots disciplined and accurate, but they were vastly outnumbered. For every insurgent that fell, 3 more kept coming. Kara went to work. She fired with mechanical precision, picked the most dangerous targets first, the ones with RPGs, the ones with machine guns, the ones directing the others. Each shot placed exactly where it needed to be. Center mass. Headshot only when necessary to get past cover. No guastida munition. No emotional shooting. Just cold mathematics. 10 rounds. 8 targets down. 12 rounds. 10 targets down. The insurgents began to realize they had a sniper problem. They started taking cover more aggressively, moving more erratically, making themselves harder to hit. Kara adusted. Letter targets. Calculated their patterns. Anticipated their movements. This was what she had been trained to do. what she had spent 3 years teaching others to do. The human mind created patterns. Even in chaos, even in fear, people fell into predictable rhythms. The trick was seeing those rhythms, exploiting them. 18 rounds, 15 targets down. The insurgent advance was slowing. Not stopping, but slowing. Bodies littered the approach to the gate. The survivors were starting to lose their nerve. Then the commander did something unexpected. He picked up a rifle and started walking toward the base himself. Not running, walking, calmly, deliberately, as if daring someone to shoot him. The other insurgents saw this, and their resolve hardened. Their leader was joining the fight, showing them how it was done. Kara put him in her crosshairs. 400 meters now, closer than before. An easy shot. She began her breathing cycle. Finger on the trigger. Pressure building. A bullet cracked past her head. So close she felt the pressure wave. Kara dropped flat on the water tower platform. Return fire. Someone had spotted her. She rolled to the edge and looked down. 3 insurgents had broken off from the main assault. They were approaching her tower, firing as they came. She was trapped, exposed. The water tower gave her perfect visibility, but zero cover. Another bullet struck the metal railing above her head. Sparks flew. The insurgents were closing fast. 50 meters. 40. Kara made a decision. She could not stay here, could not defend this position against multiple attackers. She grabbed her rifle and scrambled toward the ladder. Bullets punched through the water tower's thin metal walls. One grazed her left arm, burning like fire. She ignored the pain and kept moving. She reached the ladder and started climbing down. Fast, too fast for safety. Her boots slipped on the rungs. She caught herself, kept descending. 20 feet from the ground. 15. The insurgents reached the tower base and looked up. They saw her, raised their weapons. Kara let go of the ladder, dropped the last 10 feet, hit the ground hard and rolled. Pain exploded through her ankle, but she forced herself up. The M110 had a sling. She let it hang and drew the M4 carbine she had taken from the armory. Close quarters now. The rifle that had made her famous would not help in the next 30 seconds. The first insurgent came around the tower. Kara fired twice. Center mass. He dropped. The second insurgent was smarter. Used his dead companion for cover. Fired blind around the corner. Kara dove behind a concrete barrier. Bullets impacted above her head. She counted the shots. 7, 8, 9. Standard AK-47 magazine held 30 rounds. He had to reload eventually. The firing stopped. Reload time. Kara popped up and fired. Caught him halfway through changing magazines. He went down. The third insurgent had circled around. Was coming from her flank. She saw him too late. He had the angle. Had her dead to rights. His finger tightened on the trigger. A shot rang out, but not from his weapon. The insurgent's head snapped back. He collapsed. Kara spun, tried to find the shooter. Through the smoke, she saw Chief Vance at the gate. His rifle still raised, aimed where the insurgent had been standing. He had saved her life, left his defensive position to cover her. Put himself at risk for the cook he did not know and did not trust. Their eyes met across 60 meters of burning compound. Vance nodded once, then turned back to his own fight. The insurgents were almost at the gate. The final push had begun. Kara checked her arm. The graze was bleeding, but superficial. She could still fight. She looked up at the water tower. Could not go back there. Too exposed. Needed new position. Higher ground. Better cover. The command center. What was left of it? The second story was mostly collapsed, but one corner remained standing. Enough for a shooting position. She ran toward it, ignoring the pain in her ankle, ignoring the blood running down her arm, ignoring everything except the need to get back in the fight. Because somewhere out there, an enemy commander was leading 40 fighters towards 6 SEALs who were running out of ammunition. And the only person who could tip the scales was a cook who was not supposed to exist. A sniper who had been erased. A soldier who had sworn never to fight again. But odds meant nothing when measured against survival. And Kara Reyes had decided she was not ready to die. Not today. Not like this. And neither were the men at the gate. The command center ruins were still hot. Kara felt the heat radiating off twisted metal as she climbed through the wreckage. Concrete dust-coated everything. The smell of burning plastic and electrical fires filled her nose. She pushed through, looking for the corner that still stood, the one piece of second floor that had not collapsed. She found it, a section of wall and floor, angled at 30 degrees but stable enough. Kara hauled herself up, ignoring the protest from her injured ankle. The position gave her a clear view of the main gate and the killing field beyond. She set up the M110 on a chunk of concrete, checked her remaining ammunition. 62 rounds. Not enough for what was coming, but it would have to be. Through her scope, the battlefield came into focus. The insurgents had reorganized. They were using fire teams now, one suppressing while another advanced. Professional tactics executed with precision. And leading them from the front was the commander, rifle in hand, directing his forces like a conductor leading an orchestra. Kara centered her crosshairs on him. 420 meters. Mild crosswind from the east. She adjusted for it. Steady breath. Finger on trigger. This shot would end it. Kill the commander and watch the attack crumble. She squeezed. The rifle kicked. Through the scope, she saw the commander jerk sideways. Hit, but not down. He had moved at the last instant. The bullet caught his shoulder instead of his chest. He stumbled, caught himself, then turned and looked directly at her position. Even from 400 meters, Kara felt the weight of his stare. He knew someone was targeting him specifically, knew there was a skilled shooter somewhere in the ruins. He raised his rifle with his good arm and fired 3 rounds at her position. The shots were not aimed, could not be at this range, but the message was clear. I see you. I know you were there. The commander barked orders. 6 insurgents peeled off from the main assault and began moving toward the command center ruins. Toward Kara. He was sending a kill team after her. At the gate, Chief Vance's voice crackled over the radio. Unknown shooter, what is your status? Compromiset, kara transmitted. 6 hostiles moving to my position. I need to relocate. Negative, Vance said. His voice was tight. Strained. We need you where you are. We're getting hammered here. Whoever you are, we need your help. Kara looked through her scope at the gate. The seals were barely holding. She counted 3 of them still standing. 3. The other 3 were down. Dead or wounded, she could not tell from this distance. And the insurgents were closing. 30 meters from the gate. Then 20. The kill team was 40 meters from her position. Spreading out. Using cover. Moving with the same professional precision as the main assault force. She had maybe 90 seconds before they reached her. She made her choice. Stayed in position. Swung her rifle toward the gate. If she was going to die here, she would die fighting. Would die making these 90 seconds count. Cut off it. An insurgent rushing the gate dropped. Fired again. Another down. The SEALs saw the support and pushed forward, their shots coordinated, devastating. Together, they broke the momentum of the attack. The insurgents faltered, pulled back, regrouped. But the kill team was 30 meters away now. Kara could hear them calling to each other, coordinating, setting up a crossfire that would shred her position. She had no cover here, no escape route. The ruins behind her were impassable. The only way out was forward, directly into the enemy. 20 meters. She could see them now without the scope. 6 men, well-armed, determined. They had her trapped, and they knew it. Then something unexpected happened. One of the insurgents jerked and fell. Shot from behind. Kara heard the distinctive crack of an M4 carbine. Not hers. Someone else was shooting. The 5 remaining insurgents spun, confused, trying to identify the new threat. A figure emerged from the smoke. Compact. Moving fast. Combustance. Firing with control bursts. 2 more insurgents dropped. The remaining 3 scattered, looking for cover that was not there. The figure cut them down with methodical efficiency. Silence. The kill team was dead. All 6 in less than 30 seconds. The figure approached Kara's position, weapon up, moving tactically. As he got closer, she recognized the digital camouflage pattern. Navy SEAL, but not one of the 6 from the gate. Someone else. Where had he come from? He reached her position and took cover beside her. Up close, Kara could see he was young, maybe 25. His left arm was bandaged, blood seeping through. He had a nasty cut across his forehead, but his eyes were clear, alert, professional. Petty Officer Second Class Davis, he said. You must be the mystery shooter everyone is talking about. Kara, she said. Just Kara. Davis looked at her weapon, her tactical vest, the precision with which she had set up her position. Just Kara does not cut it, he said. Nobody shoots like that without serious training. Who are you really? Before Kara could answer, Vance's voice came over the radio again. Davis, is that you? Where the hell have you been? Davis keyed his mic, took shrapnel in the first attack, Chief. Was pinned down in the motor pool. Worked my way here. Found our guardian angel. Vance paused, then said, Is the shooter with you? Affirmative, Davis replied. And Chief, you need to see this. Our shooter is not exactly what you would expect. Kara grabbed Davis's arm. Do not, she said. But it was too late. Davis was looking at her with new understanding. The way she moved, the way she handled her weapon, the way she had set up this position with textbook precision. He had put it together. You're military, he said. Not contractor. Real deal. What were you, scout sniper? Special operations? Kara did not answer. Davis studied her face, then his eyes widened slightly. Army, he said. You are Army. I can tell by how you zero your scope. Marines do it different. And that stance, that is Fort Benning training all the way. Kara remained silent, admitting nothing, denying nothing. Davis grinned despite the blood on his face. Well, whoever you are, you saved my life. Those 6 had me boxed in. I owe you. We're even, Kara said. You saved mine first. Through her scope, Kara saw the insurgent commander rallying his forces. He had taken cover behind a destroyed Humvee, using it as a command post. She could see him bandaging his wounded shoulder while simultaneously directing his troops. The man was tough, focused, and he was not giving up. How many rounds you got left? Davis asked. 58, Kara said. Davis checked his own ammunition. 3 magazines. We're going to need every one of them. Chief says the QRF is not coming. Communications are down. We are on our own until dawn brings air support. How long until dawn? Kara asked. 40 minutes, Davis said. He looked at the massing insurgent forces. 40 minutes might as well be 40 hours. The insurgent commander raised his hand. Even wounded, his command presence was absolute. The fighters responded immediately. They began forming up for another assault. This time they were not rushing blindly. They were using smoke grenades, creating concealment, moving in coordinated teams with overlapping fields of fire. These men had fought Americans before, had learned from their mistakes, had adapted, and now they were implementing those lessons with deadly efficiency. Davis saw it too. They're good, he said quietly. Too good, Kara agreed. This is not local militia. This is professional training. Davis keyed his radio. Chief, you seeing this? They're using Western tactics. Someone taught them. I see it, Vance replied, and I do not like what it means. Stand by for orders. Kara swept her scope across the insurgent forces. Counting, calculating. They had maybe 25 fighters left, still outnumbering the SEALs 4-1. And with smoke concealment, her accuracy advantage would be neutralized. She could not shoot what she could not see. We need to stop them before they deploy that smoke, Kara said. Agreed, Davis said. Target their smoke launchers. I will take left, you take right. They fired together. Kara's shot took out an insurgent holding smoke grenades. The grenades detonated in his hands, creating a small explosion that scattered his team. Davis dropped the insurgent on the left side with similar results. But 3 other fighters still managed to launch their smoke. White clouds began spreading across the battlefield. The commander was adapting, learning. Every time they countered his tactics, he adjusted. This was not some zealot high on ideology. This was a trained military mind, someone who understood combined arms warfare, someone who had studied American tactics and knew how to defeat them. Who is this guy? Davis muttered. Kara was wondering the same thing. She focused her scope on the commander again, studied his movements, his gear, his bearing. Then she saw it, on his left shoulder, partially concealed by his vest. A patch, not insurgent markings. Something else. something that made her blood run cold. She knew that patch, had seen in classified briefings 3 years ago, when she was still someone who received classified briefings, when she was still someone the Army trusted with secrets. The patch belonged to a unit that did not officially exist, a unit trained by a nation that officially denied training insurgent forces, a unit that had been responsible for at least a dozen American casualties in this region over the past 2 years. Davis, Kara said quietly, "We have a problem. That commander is not just good. He is foreign-trained, professional military." Davis looked at her sharply. "How do you know that?" Kara pointed at the commander through her scope. "See that patch? Upper left shoulder?" Davis looked through his own optic, adjusted magnification, then went very still. "Son of a bitch," he whispered. "That is a Quds force marking. Iranian Special Operations. Which means this entire attack is not random," Kara said. "They came here with a purpose, a specific target. The SEALs," Davis said. "They want the SEAL team dead. But why?" Kara did not have an answer, but she knew one thing for certain. This had just stopped being a simple base defense. This was an assassination attempt, and the men at the gate, the men who were running out of ammunition and options, were marked for death by someone with the resources and training to make it happen. Unless Kara could stop him, unless the sniper everyone thought was dead could kill the commander everyone thought was unbeatable. She centered her crosshairs on the Iranians' position, waited for a clear shot through the spreading smoke, controlled her breathing, ignored the pain in her arm, focused everything on a mathematics of wind and distance and bullet drop, and prayed that one impossible shot could change everything. The smoke was spreading faster than Kara had anticipated. White clouds rolled across the battlefield like fog, obscuring targets, turning clear shots into guesswork. Through her scope, the Iranian commander appeared and disappeared in the haze. 1 second visible, the next gone. She needed patience, needed to wait for the perfect moment. She did not get it. The insurgents used the smoke as cover and charged. 25 fighters rushing the gate simultaneously from 3 directions. The SEALs opened fire, but they were shooting blind into the smoke. Some rounds found targets. Most did not. The insurgents kept coming. Kara fired into the smoke, aimed at muzzle flashes, at shadows, at movement. She dropped 3 fighters, but it was not enough. The insurgents reached the gate. The battle turned into close-quarters chaos. She could hear the firefight, but could not see it clearly enough to help. Davis was firing beside her, his shots controlled and precise even through the smoke. But he was down to his last magazine. Kara was down to 42 rounds. They were running out of time, running out of ammunition, running out of miracles. Then everything went wrong. A mortar round hit the command center ruins. Not a direct hit, but close enough. The blast waved through Kara sideways. Her rifle went flying. Concrete debris rained down. The section of floor she had been using collapsed, dropping her 10 feet on a twisted rebar and broken concrete below. She hit hard. Something in her left shoulder gave way with a sharp crack. Pain exploded through her body, white and blinding. She could not breathe, could not think, could only lie there as the world spun and her vision grayed at the edges. Above her, she heard Davis shouting, heard more gunfire, heard boots on concrete. Enemy fighters were coming. She tried to move, tried to reach for her sidearm, but her left arm would not respond. Dislocated shoulder, maybe broken. She could not tell through the pain. Footsteps getting closer. Voices in Pashto. Commands being barked. They had seen her fall. Were coming to finish her. Kara forced herself to roll onto her right side. Used her good arm to drag herself behind a chunk of concrete. Her legs were working at least. Her vision was starting to clear. She reached for the M4 carbine, still slung across her chest. Pulled it around with her one working arm. Checked the magazine. Half full. Enough for what was coming. 3 insurgents appeared at the edge of the collapsed floor above her. They looked down, searching. One of them pointed at her position. They raised their weapons. Kara fired first. One-handed. The carbine bucked against her body, but she held it steady through pure will. The first insurgent dropped. She adjusted aim and fired again. The second fell. The third dove for cover, but Davis appeared behind him, and put 2 rounds in his back. Davis, Kara called out. Her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. He looked over the edge. His expression darkened when he saw her. He jumped down, landing in a crouch beside her. How bad? He asked. Shoulder, Kara said through gritted teeth. Cannot use my left arm. Davis examined her quickly. Professional. Efficient. Dislocated, he said. I can pop it back, but it is going to hurt. Do it, Kara said. Davis positioned himself. Counted down. 3, 2, 1. He pulled. Kara felt the joints slide back into place with a sickening pop. The pain was unimaginable. She screamed. Could not help it. Then the acute pain faded to a deep, throbbing ache. She could move her arm again. Barely. Davis pulled out a field dressing and wrapped her shoulder. Tight enough to stabilize it. You need a medic, he said. I need my rifle, Kara replied. Davis climbed back up and retrieved the M110. Handed it down to her. The weapon was battered, but functional. Kara checked it over with her one good hand. The scope was intact. The action still worked. She could still shoot. That was all that mattered. Can you climb? Davis asked. Kara looked at the 10-foot wall of broken concrete. Not easily, she admitted. Then we stay here, Davis said. He took up position beside her. Reloaded his last magazine. How many rounds you got? 42, Kara said. Davis did a quick calculation. Between us, we have maybe 80 shots. For a dozen hostiles. The math is not good. The math has not been good since this started, Kara said. She settled the rifle against her good shoulder. Adjusted for the awkward position. It would work. It had to. At the gate, the firefight was dying down. Not because the battle was over. Because the SEALs were out of ammunition. Kara could hear Vance's voice over the radio, calling for status reports. One SEAL responded. Then another. Only 3 voices total. 3 SEALs left standing. Against 20-plus insurgents who now controlled half the compound. The Iranian commander's voice cut through the radio chatter. Not on their frequency. He was using a megaphone. Speaking in English. Accented, but clear. Navy SEALs, he called out. You have fought well. But you are finished. No ammunition. No support. No hope. Surrender now, and you will be treated as prisoners of war. Kara heard Vance's response, shouted across the compound. Go to hell. The commander laughed. It was a cold sound. Empty of humor. Very well, he said. We will come and collect your bodies instead. The insurgents began their final assault. No more tactics. No more careful advancement. Just a straight rush. Overwhelming force against a position that could no longer defend itself. Kara watched through her scope as they poured through the smoke toward the gate. Toward 3 men who had nothing left to fight with except courage and defiance. She started shooting. Dropped the first insurgent. Then the second. Third. Fourth. Her shoulder screamed with each shot, but she ignored it. Kept firing. Kept dropping targets. Davis was shooting beside her, his rounds just as accurate, just as deadly. But it was not enough. For every insurgent they killed, 3 more kept coming. The wave was unstoppable. Kara's magazine ran dry. She reloaded with her one good hand. Fumbled the magazine. Dropped it. Cursed. Tried again. Got it seated. Chamber round. Started firing again. The insurgents reached the gate. Kara could see hand-to-hand fighting now. SEALs using their rifles as clubs. Using knives. Using anything they had left. Fighting with the desperate fury of men who knew they were dead, but refused to die easily. Kara kept shooting, trying to give them a chance. Any chance. But her vision was blurring. Blood lost from the graze on her arm. Shock from a shoulder injury. Pain overwhelming her focus. She missed a shot. Missed another. Her hands were shaking too badly. Davis grabbed her good shoulder. We need to fall back, he said. We cannot help them from here. We need to get to the armory. Resupply. Kara looked at him, saw the truth in his eyes. The SEALs at the gate were lost. Dead men fighting. And sitting here, shooting with a broken body, and failing aim would only add her corpse to theirs. She hated it. Hated the logic. Hated the mathematics. Hated herself for accepting it. But Davis was right. Go, she said. I will cover you. We go together, Davis said. No arguments. He helped her up, supported her weight. They moved through the ruins, staying low, using the smoke for concealment. Behind them, the sounds of fighting grew more distant, then stopped altogether. Silence fell over the compound. Terrible. Final. The gate had fallen. Chief Vance and his men were gone, and the Iranian commander had won. Kara and Davis reached the armory. The door was still open from when she had been here earlier. A lifetime ago, they stumbled inside. Davis lowered Kara onto an ammunition crate. She sat there, swaying, her shoulder on fire, her vision tunneling. Davis grabbed fresh magazines, loaded his vest, handed ammunition to Kara. She took it with trembling hands, managed to load one magazine into her rifle, then another into her vest. But her strength was failing, her body shutting down. "How bad is it?" Davis asked, looking at her closely. "Bad," Kara admitted. "Blood loss. Shoulder is not stable. I can shoot, but I cannot move well." "Then you hold this position," Davis said. "I will see if any of the team survived. See if I can pull them out." Kara grabbed his arm. "It is suicide. The whole compound is compromised." Davis looked at her with the calm certainty of someone who had already made his decision. "They're my brothers," he said. "I do not leave them behind." Before Kara could argue, voices outside. "Pashto, close." The insurgents were sweeping the compound, looking for survivors. Looking for them. Davis moved to the door. "Weapon up. Ready." Kara forced herself to stand, brought her rifle to her good shoulder. If this was where they made their stand, so be it. She was done running, done hiding. If the last thing she did was take a few more of these bastards with her, that would have to be enough. The door burst open. Four insurgents rushed in. Davis fired. Dropped two. Kara shot the third. The fourth got off a burst that caught Davis in the leg. He went down hard. Kara put 3 rounds in the insurgent's chest before he could finish Davis. Silence again. Davis was on the floor, clutching his thigh. Blood poured between his fingers. Arterial hit. Femoral. Minutes to live without a tourniquet. Kara dropped beside him, pulled the tourniquet from his vest, applied it high and tight above the wound, cranked it down until the bleeding slowed. Davis gasped in pain, but did not cry out. That was when they heard the voice. The Iranian commander calling from outside. "Sniper," he said, "I know you are in there. I have studied your shots, your patterns. You are very good, professional, the best I have seen in this country. But you are wounded, trapped, alone. Come out, and I will make your death quick." Kara said nothing, just checked her ammunition. 28 rounds left. Davis had maybe 40. Not enough to fight their way out. Not enough to hold this position for long. Just enough to die fighting instead of surrendering. "I know who you are," the commander continued. His voice was closer now, right outside the armory. "I have hunted snipers before, killed many. But you are different. You fight like you have something to prove, like you have been wronged. I understand this. I too have been wronged by my enemies." Kara's finger tightened on the trigger, waiting. He would show himself eventually. One shot. That was all she needed. One clear shot at the man who had killed Chief Vance, who had destroyed this base, who represented everything she had run from. The door opened slowly. A rifle barrel appeared first, then a hand. Then the Iranian commander stepped into the armory. He was not aiming at her. His weapon was lowered. He was smiling. "There you are," he said softly. "The ghost sniper who saved the SEALs. Or tried to." He looked at Davis bleeding on the floor, then back at Kara. "You fought well, but now it is over." Kara centered her crosshairs on his chest. Her hands had stopped shaking. Her vision was clear. At this range, even wounded, even dying, she could not miss. "It is not over," she said, and pulled the trigger. The Iranian commander moved faster than Kara anticipated. He twisted sideways as she fired. The round meant for his heart caught him high on the left side. He grunted, but did not fall. His own weapon came up. Kara rolled behind an ammunition crate as his shots tore through the space where she had been. Davis fired from the floor. 3 rounds that forced the commander back through the doorway. But more insurgents were outside. They poured suppressing fire into the armory. Bullets ricocheted off metal shelving, punched through wooden crates, created a storm of lead that made movement impossible. The commander's voice came from outside, strained with pain, but still controlled. "You are good," he called, "but not good enough. You are bleeding, dying, and I have 20 men. How long can you last?" Kara pressed her back against the crate. Her shoulder was agony. Her vision swam. Davis was right. She was dying. They both were. Minutes, maybe. An hour if they were lucky. But the commander was wrong about one thing. She was not going to last. She was going to end this. She looked at Davis. His face was pale from blood loss, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "You got a grenade?" she asked. Davis reached to his vest with shaking hands. Pulled out a fragmentation grenade. "One," he said. "Last one." Kara took it. Checked the pin. Good. She had a plan. Insane. Suicidal. But it was all they had. "When I throw this," she said to Davis, "empty your magazine at the door. Everything you have. Keep them outside." Davis understood immediately. "And you?" "I'm going to flank them," Kara said. "There's a side door to this building. Comes out near the motor pool. I get behind them, take the shot while they're focused on you." "You can barely walk," Davis said. "I can shoot," Kara replied. "That is all that matters." She pulled the pin on the grenade, counted to 3, then threw it out the main door. The explosion was deafening in the confined space. Before the smoke cleared, Davis opened fire. Control bursts, keeping the insurgents pinned. Kara moved, fast as her damaged body would allow, through the armory to the small side door she had noticed earlier. It was locked from inside. She kicked it open. Pain shot through her ankle, but the door gave way. She emerged into chaos. Smoke everywhere, gunfire echoing off buildings. She could see the main armory entrance 20 meters away. Could see insurgents taking cover behind vehicles, firing into the building where Davis was making his last stand. And there, directing them, was the commander. His left side was soaked with blood from her shot, but he was still standing, still giving orders, still dangerous. Kara raised her rifle. Her hand was shaking badly now. She braced against the doorframe, tried to steady her breathing. The commander was 60 meters away. Should have been an easy shot, but nothing was easy anymore. She put the crosshairs on his back. Center mass. Squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. Through the scope, she saw him stumble forward. Hit, but still not down. The man was wearing body armor under his clothes. Her round had impacted the plate. The commander spun, saw her. His eyes went wide, not with fear, with recognition, as if seeing her standing there, rifle in hand, confirmed something he had suspected. "You," he said. His voice carried across the distance. "You are her." The one they said was dead. Kara did not understand, did not have time to understand. She worked the bolt, chambered another round, aimed for his head this time. No armor could stop that. But the commander was already moving, diving behind a truck, shouting orders. The insurgents redirected their fire. Toward her, Kara ducked back as bullets tore chunks out of the doorframe. She was trapped. Again, no cover, no escape, just like before. The story of her life. Always one step behind, always reacting instead of acting, always paying for decisions made by people who had never put their lives on the line. Except this time was different. This time she knew who she was fighting, knew why. The commander had said something. "You are her." The one they said was dead. He knew her, or knew of her, which meant this was not random. This whole attack, everything that had happened, was connected to her past, to the incident that had destroyed her career, to the lies that had forced her into hiding. The realization cut through the pain and exhaustion like ice water. This was personal, had always been personal. She just had not known it until now. Kara keyed the radio she had taken from the armory. "Davis," she transmitted. "The commander knows who I am. This is not about the SEALs. This is about me." Static. Then Davis's voice, weak but clear. "What are you talking about?" 3 years ago, I was Army sniper instructor," Kara said. The words came out in a rush. "Fought to keep her talking, to explain before she died. Best in my unit. Trained soldiers who went on to fight across this region. One of my students died. Training accident. But it was not an accident. It was sabotage. Someone wanted to discredit me. Wanted me gone. I found proof, but command buried it. Forced me out to protect the program." "Why?" Davis asked. "Because I was good," Kara said. "Too good. Made the wrong people look bad. So they destroyed me. erased me, and I let them because I thought it was over. I thought if I disappeared, they would forget about me. But they did not forget, Davis said, understanding. No, Kara agreed. They sent someone to finish the job. Someone professional. Someone who would make it look like I died in a random attack on a random base. The commander is not here for the SEALs. He's here for me. You all were just collateral damage. The weight of it crushed her. Chief Vance dead. His men dead. Because of her. Because she had run instead of fighting. Because she had hidden instead of demanding justice. Because she had let them win 3 years ago, and now good men had paid the price. Davis's voice came back, stronger now. Then make it count. Make their deaths mean something. Kill that son of a bitch. Kara looked at her rifle. 24 rounds left. A damaged shoulder. Blood loss, making her weak. Against 20 insurgents and a commander who had been hunting her for 3 years. The mathematics were impossible. But mathematics had never been the whole story. Mathematics did not account for will. For rage. For the cold fury of someone who had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. Karachikit Harifle made sure the action was clear. Adjusted her scope. Then she stepped out from behind the doorway. Into the open, where the insurgents could see her. Where the commander could see her. She was done hiding. Done running. If the Iranian wanted her dead, he would have to earn it. The insurgents saw her immediately. Opened fire. Kara did not take cover. Did not flinch. Just raised her rifle and started shooting. One shot. One kill. Move. Shoot again. Another down. Keep moving. Never stop. Make them adjust. Make them fear. She dropped 4 insurgents in 10 seconds. The others scrambled for better cover. Confused. Terrified. They had been hunting a wounded woman. Instead, they were facing a predator. The commander shouted orders. Try to rally them. But Kara saw the doubt in his eyes now. Saw him recognize what she had become. Not a target. Not a victim. A weapon. Forged in 3 years of exile and rage and grief for everything that had been stolen from her. She advanced, step by step, firing as she moved. Her shoulder screamed. Her vision tunneled. But her hands were steady. Her shots were true. This was what she had been born to do. What she had been trained to do. What they had tried to take from her. The commander raised his own rifle. Aimed at her. They stood 40 meters apart. Hunter and hunted. Predator and prey. Except neither knew which was which anymore. Sergeant Kara Reyes, the commander said. His voice was steady despite his wounds. I have waited 3 years for this. 3 years tracking you across this country. You killed my brother. At Kandahar. 2 years ago. A long-range shot. 800 meters. Through a window. Perfect placement. You took him from me. Karar remembered it. The target had been a Quds Force officer. High value. She had been assigned Overwatch for a raid. Had taken a shot when the target appeared. Clean kill. Textbook. One of dozens she had made during her deployment. She had not known the target had a brother. Had not known that brother would spend the next 3 years hunting her. Had not known her past would catch up with her in a place like this. Your brother was training insurgents to kill Americans, Kara said. I do not apologize for killing him. And I do not apologize for this, the commander replied. They fired simultaneously. 2 rifles. 2 shots. 2 bullets crossing in the smoke-filled air between them. Kara felt the impact. Left side. Below the ribs. The force spun her around. She hit the ground hard. Could not breathe. Could not move. Blood was spreading across her shirt. Warm. Vet. Final. But through the haze, she saw the commander. He was down too. On his knees. Her bullet had caught him in the throat. He clutched at the wound. Blood poured between his fingers. His eyes found hers across the distance. Surprise. Respect. Acceptance. Then he fell. Did not move again. Kara tried to stand. Failed. Tried again. Her body would not respond. She could feel her strength leaving. Could feel death approaching. Cold. Patient. Inevitable. Davis's voice in her ear. Kara. Kara, talk to me. Got him, she whispered. The commander. He is done. What about you? Kara looked down at her wound. Knew what it meant. Me too, she said. I'm done too. Negative, Davis said. His voice was fierce. You do not get to die. Not after everything. You hear me? You stay alive. That is an order. Kara wanted to laugh. Orders. From a petty officer to a former army sergeant. Absurd. But she was too tired. Too broken. Her eyes closed. The world faded. And somewhere in the distance, over the dying sounds of battle, she heard rotors. Helicopters. The cavalry that Vance had said was not coming. Arriving too late to save him. Arriving just in time to watch Kara Reyes die the way she had lived for 3 years. Alone. Forgotten. Erased from a world that had never wanted to remember her anyway. Kara woke to fluorescent lights and the antiseptic smell of medical equipment. Her first thought was that she was dead. Her second thought was that death hurt more than she had expected. Every breath sent fire through her left side. Her shoulder throbbed with a deep ache that radiated down her arm. Her head felt like it had been split open and poorly reassembled. She tried to sit up. Failed. Tried again. A hand on her good shoulder stopped her. Easy, a voice said, "You have been unconscious for 18 hours. Your body needs rest." Kara turned her head. Davis sat in a chair beside her bed. His leg was bandaged, elevated on a stool. His face was pale, but his eyes were alert. Alive. He was alive. "Where am I?" Kara asked. Her voice was rough. "Raw. Base Hospital Epigram," Davis said. "They medevaced us out yesterday. You and me and 3 others. 3 others, Kara repeated. Her mind was foggy, struggling to process. The SEALs. The gate. She remembered the fighting stopping. Remembered the silence. "Chief Vance." Davis's expression darkened. "He made it. So did Petty Officers Chun and Rodriguez." Vance took 2 rounds to his vest. Cracked ribs, internal bleeding, but he is alive. Chun lost part of his hand. Rodriguez has a shoulder wound. But they are alive. Relief flooded through Kara. They had not all died. She had not gotten them all killed. Some had survived. The others? She asked, though she already knew. Davis shook his head. Petty Officers Morrison, Blake, and Thomas. Gone. They held the gate until the end. Died fighting. Kara closed her eyes. 3 men. 3 lives. Gone because an Iranian commander had wanted revenge. Had wanted her dead badly enough to sacrifice 50 fighters and destroy an entire base. "It is not your fault," Davis said quietly. Kara opened her eyes. Looked at him. "How can you say that?" "They came for me." The commander said it himself. This was about revenge for his brother. "Everyone who died, died because of me." "No," Davis said firmly. "They died because a terrorist decided to launch an attack on a U.S. military installation. They died doing their jobs. Protecting this country. That is not on you." "But if I had not been there," Kara started. "If you had not been there," Davis interrupted, "we would all be dead. Every single one of us. You saved Chief Vance's life. Savid Mine. Saved Chun and Rodriguez. You killed the commander and broke his assault. You are the only reason any of us survived." Kara wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that Davis did not understand. That her entire life was a series of disasters she had caused by being too good at the one thing she should never have been good at. But the words would not come. She was too tired, too broken. The door opened. A Navy officer entered. Commander's insignia on his uniform. Early 40s, graying hair, the weathered look of someone who had spent decades in combat zones. He studied Kara with sharp eyes. "Miss Reyes," he said, "I am Commander Pearson. Naval Special Warfare Command. I need to ask you some questions." Kara felt ice in her stomach. Here it was. The interrogation. The investigation. The inevitable moment when they would want to know who she was, what she had been doing at FOB Rattlesnake, why she had military-grade sniper training and weapons. Davis started to stand. "Sir, she is still recovering. Maybe this can wait." Pearson held up a hand. "Sit down, petty officer. Your leg is not healed enough for you to be standing. And no, this cannot wait." He pulled a chair close to Kara's bed. "Saturday. Lean forward. Miss Reyes, I have spent the last 18 hours reviewing every piece of information we have about you. And I have some questions that need answers." Kara said nothing, just waited. This was the moment. The moment when her past caught up completely. When hiding became impossible. According to base records, Pearson continued, "You are Kara Reyes, civilian contractor, Food service assigned to FOB Rattlesnake 8 months ago. No military record. No combat experience. No weapons training. Is that correct? That is what the records say, Kara replied carefully. Pearson pulled out a tablet, showed her a photograph. It was her, 3 years younger, in Army combat uniform. Staff sergeant rank clearly visible, standing on a shooting range with a rifle in her hands. This is also you, Pearson said. Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes, United States Army, assigned to the sniper school at Fort Benning. Instructor, one of the highest-rated marksmen in your unit. Responsible for training over 50 soldiers who went on to serve in combat roles. Until 3 years ago, when you were discharged under circumstances that remain classified. Kara stared at the photograph, at the person she used to be. The soldier who had believed the Army would protect her if she did her job well. The instructor who had thought excellence mattered more than politics. The woman who had learned the hard way that truth was less important than appearances. What happened 3 years ago? Pearson asked. Why were you discharged? Training accident, Kara said. The official story. Private First Class Jeremy Caldwell died when his rifle exploded during live fire exercises. I was the instructor. I was held responsible. But you were not responsible, Pearson said. It was not a question. No, Kara said quietly. The rifle had been sabotaged. I found proof. Tool marks on the barrel. Evidence of tampering. I reported it. Started asking questions about who had access to the armory. And suddenly I was the problem. Suddenly, I was being investigated for negligence. For creating a hostile training environment. For being difficult. Who sabotaged the rifle? Pearson asked. Another instructor, Kara said. Staff Sergeant Marcus Holden. He resented me. Thought I was getting promotions and recognition that should have been his. He wanted me gone. When sabotaging my reputation did not work, he sabotaged equipment. Caldwell died because Holden wanted to destroy my career. Did you prove this? Pearson asked. I had evidence, Kara said, but command buried it. Holden had friends, had connections. I was just a woman who had risen too fast, made too many people uncomfortable. So they offered me a choice. Take a quiet discharge with benefits, or face a court-martial where the evidence would disappear and I would be convicted anyway. I took the discharge. And then what? Pearson asked. I disappeared, Kara said. Changed my records. Became a civilian contractor. Took a kitchen job where nobody would ask questions. Spent 8 months chopping vegetables and serving food and trying to forget I had ever been a soldier. Until yesterday, Pearson said. Until yesterday, Kara agreed. Pearson sat back, studied her. The Iranian commander, he said. Quds force officer named Hassan Ahmadi. We identified him from fingerprints. Turns out he had a brother, Kareem Ahmadi, killed 2 years ago in Kandahar during a joint task force operation. Shot by a sniper from 800 meters. That was you? That was me, Kara confirmed. I was assigned Overwatch. Target was confirmed hostile. High-value enemy combatant. I took the shot. Clean kill. I did not know he had a brother. Hassan spent the last 2 years hunting you, Pearson said. We found intelligence files on his body. Photographs. Movement logs. He tracked you to FOB Rattlesnake 3 weeks ago. Spent that time planning the assault. His goal was your death. The SEALs were just in the way. Kara felt the weight of it settle on her chest. 3 men dead. Dozens wounded. A base destroyed. All because she had done her job 2 years ago. All because she had been good at killing. You did nothing wrong, Pearson said, as if reading her thoughts. Kareem Ahmadi was a terrorist. You eliminated a threat. Hassan's revenge was not justice. It was murder. And you stopped him. I killed him, Kara said flatly. You defended yourself and others, Pearson corrected. There is a difference. He leaned forward again. Miss Reyes, or should I say Staff Sergeant Reyes, I am here to offer you something. What? Kara asked warily. A choice, Pearson said. The evidence from FOB Rattlesnake is clear. You engaged enemy forces with professional skill. Saved American lives. Killed a high-value target who had been on our watch list for 18 months. Naval Special Warfare Command wants to reopen your case. Review the circumstances of your discharge. If we find what I think we will find, we can reinstate you. Full rank. full benefits. Clear your record. Why? Kara asked. Why would you do that? Because we need people like you, Pearson said simply. People who can shoot, who can think under pressure, who put mission and lives ahead of politics. What happened to you at Fort Benning was wrong. Let's make it right. Kara looked at Davis. He was watching her with an expression she could not read. Hope, maybe. Or respect. Or something else entirely. What if I say no? Kara asked. Then you're free to go, Pearson said. No charges. No investigation. You walk away, and we never speak of this again. But you should know that Chief Vance and his team are requesting you for a commendation. Silver Star, probably. For valor under fire. Saving lives at risk of your own. If you accept reinstatement, you would receive it as Staff Sergeant Reyes. If you decline, it goes to Kara Reyes, civilian. Either way, these men want the world to know what you did. Kara closed her eyes, felt tears burning behind her eyelids. For 3 years, she had hidden, had run, had tried to pretend she was someone else. And in one day of violence, all of that had been stripped away. She was exposed, revealed. The world knew who she was again. The question was whether she wanted to reclaim that identity, whether she wanted to be Staff Sergeant Reyes again, whether she could survive in a military that had betrayed her once and might do so again. I need time, she said finally. Pearson nodded, stood. You have 72 hours. After that, the offer expires. He moved toward the door, stopped, turned back. For what it is worth, Staff Sergeant, you did not deserve what happened to you. And Private Caldwell deserved justice. Let's get it to him. He left. The room fell silent. Kara and Davis sat there, neither speaking. Outside, the sounds of the hospital continued. People living, healing, moving forward. Finally, Davis spoke. What are you going to do? Kara opened her eyes, looked at the ceiling, at the fluorescent lights that had greeted her when she woke, at the world that refused to let her disappear. I do not know, she said honestly. I really do not know. Kara spent the next 2 days in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling and avoiding decisions. Davis visited every few hours, bringing food she did not eat and making conversation she barely heard. Chief Vance came once, limping on bruised ribs, saying only that she had fought well, and he was grateful. Then he left, giving her space she was not sure she wanted. On the 3rd day, Commander Pearson returned. He did not ask for her answer, just placed a folder on her bedside table and said she should read it before time ran out. Then he too left. Kara opened the folder. Inside were documents, classified reports she should not have access to. But there they were. Investigation files from Fort Benning. 3 years old. Sealed. Buried. Forgotten. Except someone had unsealed them. Someone had dug them up. Someone had reviewed every piece of evidence and come to the conclusions Kara had reached 3 years ago but could never prove. The rifle that killed Private Caldwell had been sabotaged. Tool marks on the barrel consistent with deliberate weakening. The weapon should never have passed inspection, but the inspection logs had been falsified by Staff Sergeant Marcus Holden, who had also been responsible for armory access on the day of the training, who had a documented history of complaints about Kara's rapid advancement, who had transferred to a different base 2 weeks after Caldwell's death and received a promotion 6 months later. All that was there. All the proof Kara had tried to show command 3 years ago. All the evidence they had told her did not exist. Compiled. Documented. Undeniable. A handwritten note was clipped to the last page. Pearson's handwriting. Holden is currently under investigation. CID has reopened the case. Your testimony would ensure conviction. Caldwell's family deserves the truth. You deserve vindication. The choice is yours. Kara read it 3 times. Then closed the folder. Closed her eyes. And for the first time in 3 years, let herself feel the rage she had been suppressing. The fury at what had been done to her. To Caldwell. To everyone who had trusted the system to protect them and found only politics and lies. She buzzed for a nurse. When the woman arrived, Kara said she needed to make a phone call. Official business. The nurse brought a secure line. Kara dialed the number Pearson had left. He answered on the 2nd ring. This is Commander Pearson. This is Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes, she said. United States Army. And I accept your offer. There was a pause. Then Pearson's voice came back, warm with approval. Outstanding. I will have the paperwork processed immediately. You report to Quantico in 2 weeks for medical clearance and reinstatement processing. No, Kara said. I report to Criminal Investigation Division tomorrow. I have testimony to give, a case to build, a man to help convict. Pearson was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Roger that, Staff Sergeant. I will make the arrangements. Welcome back. Kara hung up, sat there in the hospital bed, feeling something she had not felt in 3 years. Purpose, direction, a reason to be who she actually was instead of pretending to be someone forgettable. Davis appeared in the doorway. He must have been waiting nearby, listening. He smiled. So you're doing it, he said. I'm doing it, Kara confirmed. Going back. Finishing what I started. Good, Davis said. He hobbled in and sat down. Then I have a question for you. What? Davis pulled out his own folder. Thinner than the one Pearson had brought, but just as official. After what happened at Rattlesnake, Naval Special Warfare is creating a new training program. Advanced marksmanship for SEAL support elements. They want someone who understands both shooting and teaching. Someone who has been in the fight and knows what works. They asked me to ask you if you would be interested in a liaison position. Army sniper instructor assigned to Navy Special Operations training. Kara stared at him. You wanting to teach SEALs? Not SEALs directly, Davis said. Support personnel. Intelligence analysts. Combat médic. People who do not normally get advanced weapons training, but sometimes end up in situations where they need it. Like you did. Like I did. We need someone who can turn a cook into a sniper in the middle of a firefight. I did not turn into a sniper, Kara said. I already was one. Exactly, Davis said. And there are probably others out there. People with skills hiding in roles where nobody expects them. People who could save lives if someone just gave them the chance to remember who they really are. You could be that someone. Kara considered it. Teaching again, but different this time. Not training infantrymen for combat. Training support troops for survival. Giving people the skills to protect themselves when the unexpected happened. When the base got attacked. When a safe position became the front line. It would mean working with the Navy, she said. I am Army. Joint Command, Davis replied. You would report to both chains. Army rank, Navy assignment. It has been done before. And you? Kara asked. Where would you be in all this? I would be your assistant instructor, Davis said. If you'll have me. My leg is healing, but it will be 6 months before I am cleared for field operations. I need something to do besides physical therapy. Might as well be helping you turn desk jockeys into warriors. Kara looked at him, really looked at him. This man she had met 3 days ago in the middle of hell, who had saved her life, who she had saved in return, who understood what it meant to fight when the odds said you should die, who knew the value of being prepared for the moment when everything went wrong. We would need a curriculum, she said. Training standards. A facility. We have all that, Davis said. What we need is the right instructor. Someone the students will respect. Someone who has proven they can do what they are teaching. Someone who has lived it. You barely know me, Kara said. I know you held a position for 30 minutes against 40 hostiles, Davis replied. I know you made impossible shots with a dislocated shoulder and blood loss. I know you killed an enemy commander who had been hunting you for 3 years. I know you did not quit when quitting would have been easier. That is all I need to know. Kara felt something shift inside her. A decision solidifying. A path forward becoming clear. She had spent 3 years running from who she was, hiding from her skills, pretending her training did not matter. And in one day, all of that had been proven wrong. Her skills had mattered, had saved lives, had made a difference. Maybe it was time to stop running. Time to be who she actually was. Time to turn pain and rage and 3 years of exile into something that helped others survive. Okay, she said. I will do it. I will be your instructor. Davis grinned. Outstanding. I will let Pearson know. He stood, extended his hand. Welcome to Naval Special Warfare, Staff Sergeant Reyes. Kara shook his hand. Her grip was still weak from the injuries, but it was firm enough. Thank you, she said, for believing I could do this. Thank you for proving it, Davis replied. He left. Kara sat alone again in the hospital room. But this time the solitude felt different. Not like hiding, like preparation, getting ready for what came next. She thought about Private Caldwell, about the young soldier who had died because of politics and jealousy and a system that protected the guilty. She thought about the testimony she would give, the justice that would finally be served, the truth that would finally be told. She thought about Chief Vance and his men, about Morrison and Blake and Thomas who had died at the gate, about Chun who lost part of his hand, about Rodriguez recovering from his shoulder wound, about the debt she owed to warriors who had fought beside her without question. She thought about the Iranian commander, about Hassan Ahmadi who had spent 3 years hunting her, about the attack he had planned, about the moment when they had both fired and both hit and both understood that revenge solved nothing. That death only created more death. And she thought about the students she would teach, the analysts and medics and support troops who never expected to fight but might need it anyway, the people she could prepare, the lives she could save by passing on her skills instead of burying them. The door opened again. A doctor this time, checking her vitals, reviewing her charts, telling her she could be discharged in 2 days if her recovery continued, asking if she had somewhere to go, someone to help her through rehabilitation. I have a job, Kara said. People counting on me. I will be fine. The doctor looked skeptical, but marked it in the chart. As you wish, he said. Just take it slow. Your body needs time to heal. After he left, Kara stood. Slowly, carefully. Her side protested. Her shoulder ached. Her ankle throbbed. But she could stand, could move, could function. She walked to the window, looked out at Bagram Air Base, at the helicopters taking off and landing, at the soldiers moving between buildings, at the war that continued whether she was part of it or not. For 3 years, she had been invisible, erased, a ghost haunting a life that was not really hers. But ghosts could not teach, could not testify, could not change the system that had failed them. It was time to be real again, time to be seen, time to be Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes, United States Army, sniper instructor, survivor, warrior. Time to stop hiding and start fighting, not against enemies with rifles, against the injustice that let good soldiers die while cowards got promoted, against the politics that buried truth, against the system that protected reputation over lives. And if that fight meant standing in front of students and teaching them to shoot, teaching them to survive, teaching them that sometimes the quiet person in the kitchen was actually the most dangerous person on the base, then that was a fight worth having. Kara turned from the window, lay back down on the hospital bed, closed her eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, slept without nightmares, slept without fear, slept like someone who knew exactly who they were and exactly what they were going to do about it. The cook was dead. The sniper had returned, and she was never disappearing again. 2 weeks later, Kara stood in front of a conference room at the Criminal Investigation Division headquarters in Virginia. Her uniform felt strange after 3 years of civilian clothes. The staff sergeant stripes on her sleeve looked both familiar and foreign, like putting on an old jacket that no longer fit quite right, but still carried the shape of who you used to be. Across the table sat 3 CID agents, a JAG Corps attorney, and a civilian from the Inspector General's office. Between them lay stacks of evidence, photographs, inspection logs, testimony transcripts, the entire case against Staff Sergeant Marcus Holden assembled and ready for prosecution. Staff Sergeant Reyes, the lead CD agent, said. His name was Warrant Officer Martinez. Gray hair, calm eyes, the demeanor of someone who had investigated hundreds of cases and knew how to find truth in lies. Thank you for coming. We know this is difficult. It is necessary, Kara said. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this, prepared for it. She would not let emotion derail justice. Martinez nodded. Let us begin with the day of the incident. April 14th, 3 years ago. You were conducting live fire training exercises with a class of 8 students. Private First Class Jeremy Caldwell was one of them. Walk us through what happened. Kara took a breath. Remembered, the range had been cold that morning. Clear sky, light wind, perfect conditions for training. She had inspected each weapon personally before allowing students to fire. Standard protocol. Caldwell's rifle had passed inspection. She had checked it herself. Bore clear. Action smooth. Magazine seated properly. I divided the students into pairs, Kara said. Each pair would fire from a different station while I rotated between them for coaching. Caldwell was paired with Private Torres at Station 3. They were the fourth pair to begin firing. What happened when Caldwell fired? Martinez asked. Kara closed her eyes. Saw it again, the way she had been seeing it for 3 years. Every night in her dreams. Caldwell settling into position, checking his sight picture, squeezing the trigger, the barrel exploding, metal fragmenting. Caldwell's scream cut short. The rifle catastrophically failed, Kara said, opening her eyes. The barrel ruptured. Shrapnel entered Private Caldwell's face and neck. He died within 90 seconds despite immediate medical intervention. Martinez made note. And what did you do immediately after? I secured the scene, Kara said, prevented other students from approaching, called for medics and range safety officers. Then I examined the failed weapon. What did you find? Evidence of tampering, Kara said. The barrel had stress marks consistent with deliberate weakening. Tool marks indicating someone had used a file or grinder on the interior surface. The metal had been thinned to the point of failure. Martinez pulled out a photograph. Showed it to Kara. Is this the weapon? Yes, Kara confirmed. That is Caldwell's rifle. Those marks on the barrel, that is what I found. And you reported this? The JAG attorney asked. Immediately, Kara said. To my commanding officer, Captain Reynolds. I showed him the evidence. Explained what it meant. Requested a full investigation. What did Captain Reynolds do? Martinez asked. He told me to stand down, Kara said. The memory still burned. Said I was grief-stricken and seeing conspiracy where there was only tragedy. Said the weapon had simply malfunctioned. That these things happen. That pushing the issue would only hurt the unit and dishonor Caldwell's memory. But you pushed anyway, Martinez said. I did, Kara confirmed. I documented everything. Took photographs. Compiled a report. Identified who had access to the armory in the 48 hours before the training. There were 3 people. Me, the armory sergeant, and Staff Sergeant Holden. Why did you suspect Holden specifically? The JAG attorney asked. Kara pulled out her own folder. Opened it. Inside were printed emails and incident reports she had kept copies of. Documentation she had hidden for 3 years, waiting for this moment. Holden had submitted multiple complaints about me, Kara said. She spread the papers on the table. Here and here, claiming I was receiving preferential treatment. That my promotion to Staff Sergeant was undeserved. That I was creating division in the unit. Command dismissed the complaints as jealousy. But Holden did not stop. He became more hostile. Started making comments about how accidents happen on ranges. How instructors who did not respect tradition sometimes learn hard lessons. Did you report these comments? Martinez asked. Yes, Kara said. To Captain Reynolds. He told me Holden was old school. Said I needed to develop thicker skin. That the Army was not a safe space. I tried to let it go. Try to focus on teaching. Then Caldwell died. And you believe Holden sabotaged the rifle to make you look incompetent, the civilian from the IG office said. I know he did, Kara said firmly. The tool marks matched equipment in the armory that only Holden and I had access to. I had been on leave the 2 days before the training. Holden had been on duty both days. Alone, with full access. And 2 weeks after Caldwell's death, when I was being forced out, Holden transferred to Fort Bragg and received a promotion. Martinez consulted his notes. We have confirmed all of that. Holden is now a sergeant first class at Fort Bragg. Successful career. No disciplinary issues. Respected instructor. Because he got away with murder, Kara said. Her voice was hard now. Because command decided protecting the program's reputation mattered more than finding the truth. They gave me a choice. Take a quiet discharge or face a court-martial where the evidence would disappear. I took the discharge because I was 25 years old and I believed them when they said they would destroy me if I fought. The room was silent. Martinez and the others exchanged glances. Finally, Martinez said, We need you to testify at the court-martial. Holden has been formally charged. The evidence is strong, but your testimony is critical. Are you willing? Yes, Kara said without hesitation. I owe it to Caldwell. I owe it to every soldier who trusts the system to protect them. And I owe it to myself. The JAG attorney leaned forward. You understand that Holden's defense will attack your credibility. They will bring up your discharge, your time as a civilian, the incident at FOB Rattlesnake. They will try to paint you as unstable, violent, unreliable. Let them try, Kara said. Everything I did at Rattlesnake is documented. I saved lives, eliminated enemy combatants, received a commendation. If they want to use that against me, they will have to explain why defending Americans under attack makes me unreliable. The attorney smiled slightly. Good answer. Martinez closed his folder. Staff Sergeant Reyes, on behalf of CD, I want to apologize. What happened to you 3 years ago was wrong. You deserve better from the chain of command. We're going to make sure justice is served. For you and for Private Caldwell. When is the court-martial? Kara asked. 6 weeks, Martinez said. Fort Bragg, you'll be called to testify. Until then, continue with your reinstatement process. Do your job. Let us handle building the case. Caras tudo. Shook hands with each person in the room, then walked out into the hallway. Davis was waiting there, still limping slightly but mobile. He had insisted on coming with her, said she should not face this alone. How'd it go? He asked. Good, Kara said. They have everything they need. Holden is going down. Davis smiled. Outstanding. Now we have work to do. Our first class of students arrives next week. We need to finalize the curriculum. They walked through the building together, out into the Virginia afternoon. The sky was clear. The air was crisp. Kara felt lighter than she had in years. The weight of carrying the truth alone was finally lifting. Others knew now. Others believed. Others were fighting beside her. You know, Davis said as they reached his car, I have been thinking about something. What? That moment at Rattlesnake, Davis said. When you stepped out from cover. When you decided to fight instead of hide. What made you do it? Kara considered the question. Thought about Danny Ortiz crying behind the shed. About Chief Vance and his men at the gate. About the Iranian commander who had hunted her for 3 years. About all the reasons she had to run and the one reason she had stayed. I was tired of being afraid, she said finally. Tired of letting other people's lies define who I was. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to keep hiding or if you're going to stand up and be who you actually are. Even if it is dangerous. Even if it hurts. Because hiding hurts too. Just differently. Just slower. Davis nodded. That is what I tell myself about my leg. About coming back from this injury. Some people would take a medical retirement. Collect disability. Walk away. But that will be hiding from what I am. I am a warrior. I do not know how to be anything else. Then we're the same, Kara said. Both of us trying to be who we actually are instead of who circumstances try to make us. They drove back to Quantico in comfortable silence. Kara watched the landscape pass. Trees, buildings, people living normal lives without knowing that somewhere, soldiers like her and Davis were preparing. Training. Making sure that when a normal world collided with the violent one, someone would be ready. That night, Kara sat in her new quarters. Temporary housing on base while she completed reinstatement processing. The room was small, sparse. A bed, a desk, a window overlooking the training grounds. On the desk was a photograph. The only personal item she had brought with her. It showed 8 soldiers in training uniforms. Her last class at Fort Benning before everything fell apart. Before Caldwell died. Before Holden destroyed her career. 7 of those soldiers had gone on to serve in combat. Had used the skills she taught them. Had survived because she had made them better. And 1 had died because she had failed to protect him from an enemy she had not recognized until too late. She touched Caldwell's face in the photograph. Young, eager, trusting. He had believed in the system. Had believed his instructors would keep him safe. Had believed right up until the moment the rifle exploded and took his life. I am sorry, Kara whispered. I am sorry I did not see it coming. Did not stop it. Did not fight hard enough to make them listen. But that was changing. In 6 weeks, she would testify. Would tell the truth. Would make sure Caldwell's death was not forgotten. Was not buried. Was not turned into just another training accident that nobody talked about. And after that, she would teach again. Would train soldiers to survive. would pass on everything she knew about shooting and tactics and the thousand small skills that made the difference between living and dying. She would be who she was meant to be. Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes. Sniper. Instructor. Warrior. The woman who refused to hide anymore. The woman who stood up and fought back. The woman who turned pain into purpose and rage into justice. The cook was dead. The sniper had returned, and she was just getting started. The courtroom at Fort Bragg was smaller than Kara expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, rows of chairs filled with officers and observers. At the defense table sat Staff Sergeant Marcus Holden, older than Kara remembered, grayer, but his eyes were the same, cold, calculating, dismissive. When his gaze found her in the witness waiting area, he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a knowing one, the smile of someone who thought he had already won, who believed that rank and connections and 3 years of successful career would outweigh the accusations of a woman who had been erased. Kara did not look away, did not flinch, just stared back until Holden's smile faded and he turned to confer with his attorney. The bailiff called the court to order. The panel of officers filed in, a mix of ranks, a mix of branches, all there to decide if Staff Sergeant Holden was guilty of negligent homicide and obstruction of justice. The prosecution went first, laid out the evidence, the tool marks on the rifle barrel, the access logs showing Holden alone in the armory, the complaints he had filed against Kara, the suspicious timing of his transfer and promotion, the pattern of behavior indicating motive and opportunity. Then they called their first witness, Warrant Officer Martinez from CID. He testified about the investigation, about the evidence that had been buried 3 years ago, about the new analysis that confirmed sabotage, about the conclusion that only one person could have committed the crime. Holden's attorney tried to shake him, suggested the evidence was circumstantial, that tool marks could have come from routine maintenance, that access logs proved nothing, that correlation was not causation. Martinez remained calm. Professional, he had testified at dozens of courts-martial. He knew how to handle aggressive defense attorneys. When he stepped down, the prosecution's case was intact. They called other witnesses. The armory sergeant who had been on duty 3 years ago. He testified about Holden's unusual behavior in the days before Caldwell's death, about finding him in the armory late at night, about Holden's explanations that he was doing extra inventory checks. They called soldiers who had served with both Kara and Holden, who testified about his resentment, his comments, his belief that Kara had received promotions she did not deserve, his increasingly hostile attitude as she excelled and he stagnated. Each witness added another piece, another connection, another point of proof that Holden had motive, means, and opportunity, that he had sabotaged the rifle, that he had killed Private Caldwell to destroy Kara's career. Then they called Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes. Kara walked to the witness stand, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, sat down, looked directly at the panel of officers who would decide this case. The prosecutor, a JAG captain named Williams, approached. Staff Sergeant Reyes, he said, please state your current assignment. I am a marksmanship instructor assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command, Kara said. Joint Army-Navy Training Program for Support Personnel. And 3 years ago, were you assigned? Sniper School, Fort Benning, Kara said. I was a staff sergeant instructor responsible for training soldiers in advanced marksmanship techniques. Williams walked her through the events. The training day, the inspection, Caldwell's death, the evidence she found, the report she filed, the resistance she met from command, the choice she was given, the discharge she accepted. Kara answered each question clearly, factually, without emotion. This was not about her feelings. This was about facts, about evidence, about justice. Why did you not fight the discharge? Williams asked. Because I was 25 years old and I believed them when they said they would destroy me, Kara said. Because I had seen what happened to soldiers who challenged command. Because I was tired and grieving and I thought maybe they were right. Maybe I had missed something. Maybe I was the problem. Do you still believe that? Williams asked. No, Kara said firmly. I know what I saw. I know what happened. And I know that Private Caldwell deserved better than to have his death covered up to protect a program's reputation. Williams showed her the photographs, the tool marks, the evidence, asked her to explain what each piece meant. Kara did, methodically, professionally, the way she would explain a shot sequence to a student. Step by step, cause and effect, fact and conclusion. Then Williams asked about FOB Rattlesnake, about the attack, about her actions, about the commendation she had received. He established her credibility, her skill, her character. By the time he finished, the panel was looking at her with respect. Your witness, Williams said to the defense. Holden's attorney stood. His name was Major Brennan. Experienced, aggressive. He smiled at Kara the way a shark smiles before it attacks. Staff Sergeant Reyes, he said. Or should I call you Miss Reyes? After all, you spent the last 3 years as a civilian, did you not? I was discharged, Kara said. I have since been reinstated. Only after the incident at FOB Rattlesnake, Brennan said, where you killed multiple people, shot and killed an Iranian commander, engaged in combat despite having no official authorization. Does that sound like the behavior of a stable, reliable witness? Objection, Williams said. Relevance. The judge looked at Brennan. Counselor? Your Honor, the defense contends that Staff Sergeant Reyes has a history of instability, Brennan said, of violence, of seeing conspiracies where none exist. Her testimony cannot be trusted. The judge considered. Overruled. But make your point quickly, Counselor. Brennan turned back to Kara. You were hiding at that base, were you not? Hiding from your past, from your failures, from the fact that you were responsible for a soldier's death. I was working, Kara said calmly, earning a living, trying to move forward. By pretending to be someone else, Brennan pressed. By concealing your military background. By lying about who you were. I used my legal name, Kara said. I took a job I was qualified for. I broke no laws. But you were running, Brennan said. Running from the consequences of your negligence. From the fact that you failed to properly inspect Private Caldwell's weapon. From the guilt of knowing you killed him. Objection, Williams said sharply. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said. Counselor, question the witness. Do not speechify. Brennan shifted tactics. When you claim to have found evidence of sabotage, he said, you were the only one who saw it. Is that correct? I documented it, Kara said. I took photographs. I filed a report. A report that was rejected by your chain of command, Brennan said. By experienced officers who reviewed the same evidence and concluded it showed nothing suspicious. They concluded what was politically convenient, Kara said. Or they concluded the truth, Brennan countered, that a rifle malfunctioned, that you failed to catch the defect during inspection, that you try to blame others to avoid responsibility. That is not what happened, Kara said. Is it not? Brennan asked. You admit you inspected that rifle personally. You admit you cleared it for use. You admit Private Caldwell died using a weapon you had approved. How is that not your responsibility? Kara felt the trap closing, felt the old doubt creeping back. The question she had asked herself for 3 years. Had she missed something? Could she have prevented it? Was this her fault after all? Then she looked to Holden, saw him watching her, waiting for her to break, to admit guilt, to take the blame he had so carefully arranged for her. And something inside her hardened, crystallized, became unbreakable. It is my responsibility, Kara said quietly. My responsibility to tell the truth. My responsibility to make sure Private Caldwell's death is not blamed on malfunction when it was murder. My responsibility to stand here and testify that Staff Sergeant Holden sabotaged that weapon, that he killed Caldwell, that he destroyed my career to cover his crime, and my responsibility to make sure he pays for what he did. The courtroom was silent. Brennan stared at her, searching for a crack, a weakness, finding none. No further questions, he said finally. Williams stood for redirect. Staff Sergeant Reyes, he said, in your expert opinion as a trained sniper instructor with years of experience, did you miss a defect in Private Caldwell's rifle during inspection? No, Kara said. The defect was created after my inspection. The sabotage occurred between inspection and use. That is the only explanation consistent with the evidence. Thank you, Williams said. Nothing further. Kara stepped down, walked back to her seat. Davis was there, watching from the gallery. He gave her a small nod. You did good. The rest of the trial took 2 more days. Expert witnesses testified about the tool marks, about the impossibility of the damage occurring naturally, about the clear evidence of deliberate tampering. Character witnesses testified about Holden's jealousy, about his resentment, about his comments over the years that the Army was promoting the wrong people. Holden himself took the stand, denied everything, claimed Kara was a liar, a failure, someone trying to resurrect her career by destroying his. His attorney argued lack of physical evidence, argued that tool marks could have alternative explanations, argued that motive alone did not prove guilt. But the panel saw through it. Kara could tell from their faces, from the way they looked at Holden with disgust, from the way they looked at her with sympathy, with understanding, with the recognition that she had been wronged and was finally getting her chance to be heard. After deliberations, the panel returned. Guilty on all charges. Negligent homicide, obstruction of justice, conduct unbecoming. Holden's face went white. His attorney immediately started talking about appeals, about procedural errors, about rights violations. But it was over. The panel recommended dishonorable discharge and 5 years in military prison. The judge accepted the recommendation, ordered Holden taken into custody immediately. As military police led him away, Holden looked at Kara one last time. The smugness was gone. The confidence was shattered. He was just a bitter man who had destroyed lives and was finally facing consequences. Kara felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just exhaustion and relief, and the quiet certainty that she had done what needed to be done. Outside the courthouse, Williams shook her hand. You were an excellent witness, he said. Caldwell's family wanted me to thank you. They have been waiting 3 years for answers, for justice. You gave them both. I wish I could have given them more, Kara said. Wish I could have prevented it in the first place. You cannot prevent evil, Williams said. You can only fight it when it appears. You did that. First by trying to expose it 3 years ago, then by coming back to testify now. That takes courage most people do not have. He left. Kara stood there on the courthouse steps, Davis beside her. The afternoon sun was warm. The sky was clear. Somewhere, the Caldwell family was getting a phone call, learning that the man responsible for their son's death had been convicted, learning that their son's name had been cleared, learning that the instructor who had tried to save him had never stopped fighting for the truth. It is done, Davis said. It is done, Kara agreed. Now what? Now we teach, Kara said. We make sure no more soldiers die, because someone in their chain of command cares more about politics than people. We create a program that values truth over reputation, that protects the ones who need protecting, that gives everyone a fighting chance. Davis smiled. Sounds like a mission. It is, Kara said. The most important one I have ever had. They walked to the car, drove away from Fort Bragg, away from the past, toward whatever came next, toward a future where Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes was not a ghost, not a failure, not someone to be erased and forgotten, just a soldier doing her job, teaching, serving, fighting for what was right. Finally, after 3 years, exactly who she was meant to be. 3 months after the trial, Kara stood on a firing range at Quantico watching her first class of students. 12 of them, intelligence analysts, combat medics, logistics specialists, people who had joined the military to serve in supporting roles, but who needed to understand that support personnel sometimes became frontline fighters when everything went wrong. The way Kara had, the way Davis had, the way every soldier at FOB Rattlesnake had been forced to when the attack came. Davis limped up beside her. His leg was better, but would never be perfect. The doctors said he would always have a slight limp. He said it gave him character, made him look distinguished. Kara said it made him look like he had been shot, which he had, so the look was honest. How are they doing? Davis asked. Better than expected, Kara said. She watched a young analyst named Chen line up her shot. 200 meters. Stationary target. Basic fundamentals. Chen took her time, controlled her breathing, squeezed the trigger, hit center mass. Not bad for week 3, Davis observed. They are motivated, Kara said. Half of them have been deployed. They have seen what happens when the wire gets breached. They do not want to be helpless if it happens again. Davis nodded. That is why this program works. We are not training them to be snipers. We're training them to survive. A voice called out from the range. Staff Sergeant Reyes? One of the students, a medic named Okonkwo, was having trouble with her sight picture. Kara walked over, adjusted Okonkwo's position, corrected her grip, explained the mechanics of proper breathing. Try again, Kara said. Okonkwo fired. This time the shot landed true. She looked up at Kara with surprised pride. I hit it. You did, Kara confirmed. Remember that feeling. Remember that you are capable of more than you think. When the moment comes, when everything is chaos and fear, remember that you trained for this, that you can do this. Okonkwo nodded. Thank you, Staff Sergeant. Kara moved to the next student, and the next, giving guidance, making corrections, teaching the same lessons she had taught at Fort Benning 3 years ago, but different now, better, because now she understood what she was really teaching was not just marksmanship. It was confidence, self-reliance, the knowledge that you were not helpless, that you had skills, that you could fight back. That afternoon, Commander Pearson visited the range, watched the students for a while, then pulled Kara aside. I have news, he said. The Silver Star nomination was approved. You and Chief Vance will both receive it. Ceremony is next month at Naval Amphibious Base Little Creek. The entire SEAL team will be there. Kara felt something tighten in her chest. Morrison, Blake, and Thomas. They would not be there. Would never be there again. I do not deserve a medal, she said quietly. Men died. Men died fighting, Pearson corrected. And more men lived because of your actions. That is what the medal recognizes. Not that the fight was won without cost. That you made the cost less than it would have been. I was just trying to survive, Kara said. So was everyone else that day, Pearson replied. But you survived while also saving others, while taking down an enemy commander who had been on our target list for years, while proving that courage is not about feeling fearless. It is about being terrified and fighting anyway. Kara looked at her students on the range, thought about what she was teaching them, what she hoped they would remember if their moment came, if their safe posting became a battlefield, if they had to choose between hiding and fighting. Will you attend the ceremony? Pearson asked. Yes, Kara said. I owe it to Morrison and Blake and Thomas. I owe it to Chief Vance and his team. I owe it to everyone who fought that day. Good, Pearson said. He started to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The Caldwell family wants to meet you. They will be at the ceremony. They want to thank you for what you did, for getting justice for their son. Kara felt tears burning behind her eyes. She blinked them away. I will meet them, she said. I will be honored. After Pearson left, Davis approached. You okay? He asked. Kara nodded, just thinking about how much has changed. 3 months ago, I was hiding, pretending to be someone else. Now I'm teaching again, getting a medal, meeting the family of a soldier I failed to protect. You did not fail Caldwell, Davis said firmly. Holden killed him. You tried to get justice and were silenced. But you did not give up. You came back. You testified. You won. That is not failure. It does not feel like winning, Kara said. It never does, Davis replied. Victory just means you survived to keep fighting. That is all any of us can do. The range officer called time. The students secured their weapons and gathered their equipment. Kara watched them talking among themselves, comparing shots, encouraging each other, building the camaraderie that would sustain them when things got hard. One of the students, a logistics specialist named Park, approached. Staff Sergeant, he said, can I ask you something? Of course, Kara said. Park hesitated, then said, is it true what they say? That you were a cook at FOB Rattlesnake? That you went from the kitchen to the tower and held off an entire assault? It is true, Kara said. I was working in the kitchen. The attack came. I did what needed to be done. But how? Park asked. How did you know what to do? How were you not terrified? I was terrified, Kara said honestly. Every second. I was injured, losing blood, watching people die. Terror does not go away just because you are trained. But training gives you something to do with the terror. Channels it. Turns it into action instead of paralysis. Is that what you are teaching us? Park asked. How be brave? No, Kara said. I'm teaching you how to be effective. Bravery is not about feeling fearless. It is about knowing what to do when you are afraid. About having skills you can rely on when everything else falls apart. About trusting your training even when your emotions are screaming at you to run. Park nodded slowly. Thank you, Staff Sergeant. That helps. He walked away. Davis came over. That was good, he said. You are becoming a real instructor again. I never stopped being an instructor, Kara said. I just stopped believing I had anything worth teaching. Stopped believing the Army wanted what I could offer. And now? Davis asked. Now I know better, Kara said. The Army is not one thing. It is made up of people. Some good, some bad, some who care about truth, and some who care about politics. My job is to serve the good ones, to teach them, to prepare them, to make sure that when they face their worst moment, they have the skills to survive it. That is a good mission, Davis said. It is the only mission that matters, Kara replied. That evening, Kara returned to her quarters. On her desk was a letter. Official stationery. Department of the Army. She opened it carefully. Inside was a formal apology from the Secretary of the Army, acknowledging that her discharge 3 years ago had been unjust, that the investigation into Private Caldwell's death had been inadequate, that she had been failed by a chain of command that prioritized reputation over truth, that her reinstatement with full back pay and benefits was only partial compensation for what had been taken from her. The letter also informed her that the sniper school at Fort Benning was being renamed. It would now be called the Caldwell Reyes Center for Advanced Marksmanship, named after the student who had died and the instructor who had refused to let his death be forgotten. Kara read the letter 3 times, then carefully folded it and placed it in a frame on her desk. Not because she was proud, but because she wanted to remember, wanted to never forget that fighting for the truth mattered, that persistence mattered, that refusing to disappear mattered. Her phone rang. Chief Vance. She had not spoken to him since leaving the hospital. Staff Sergeant, Vance said when she answered. I hear we are getting medals together. So I'm told, Kara said. I also hear you are running a hell of a training program. Vance continued. Davis tells me your students are exceeding expectations, that you're creating the kind of program the military should have had years ago. I'm trying, Kara said. You are succeeding, Vance corrected. And I wanted to tell you something. What you did at Rattlesnake, it changed how my team thinks about support personnel. We used to see them as just background, people who serve food and file paperwork. Now we see them as potential warriors waiting for the right training. You showed us that. I just did what I was trained to do, Kara said. Exactly, Vance said. And now you're passing that training to others, making sure the next time a base gets hit, there are more people like you ready to fight back. That is worth more than any medal. Thank you, Chief, Kara said. That means a lot. See you at the ceremony, Vance said. And, Kara, the team wants you to know something. Morrison, Blake, and Thomas. They died honorably, fighting beside warriors. That includes you. You are one of us now, whether you were a trident or not. He hung up. Kara sat there holding the phone, feeling the weight of what he had said. What meant? She had spent 3 years being erased, being told she did not belong, being pushed out of the military she had served with distinction. And now she was being told she belonged, that she was valued, that her skills and her sacrifice and her refusal to quit mattered. She looked at the framed letter on her desk, at the photograph of her students on the range, at the uniform hanging in her closet with staff sergeant stripes she had earned twice. This was her life now, not hiding, not pretending, just serving, teaching, making sure that other soldiers had the skills to survive their worst days. It was not the life she had planned, not the career she had imagined at 22 when she first put on the uniform, but was a life that mattered, a career that saved lives, a purpose that gave meaning to everything she had lost and everything she had survived. Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes, instructor, warrior, survivor. Finally, after 3 years of exile, exactly where she belonged. The ceremony at Naval Amphibious Base Little Creek was held on a clear November morning. Hundreds of people filled the parade ground, officers in dress uniforms, enlisted personnel standing at attention, families holding flags and photographs. Media cameras recording everything. Kara stood backstage with Chief Vance, both in their service dress uniforms. Vance's navy dress blues with ribbons covering his chest. Kara's army greens with the staff sergeant stripes she had fought so hard to reclaim. They did not speak much. Did not need to. They had both earned their place here. Had both paid the price that medals represented. The base commander took the podium. Began reading citations. Explaining what had happened at FOB Rattlesnake 6 months ago. How a small SEAL team and one Army instructor had held a base against overwhelming odds. How they had fought with courage and skill. How 3 had made the ultimate sacrifice. He called the names. Petty Officer 2nd Class James Morrison. Petty Officer 2nd Class Marcus Blake. Petty Officer 3rd Class Daniel Thomas. A moment of silence. The sound of taps played by a lone bugler. 3 widows accepting flags. 3 sets of parents standing with tears streaming down their faces. Kara felt her throat tighten. Morrison had been 28. Blake was 26. Thomas had just turned 24. All dead because an Iranian commander had wanted revenge. All dead defending a base that Kara had brought danger to simply by existing. Then the commander called Chief Vance forward. Read his citation. Silver Star for conspicuous gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States. For leading his team under fire. For refusing to surrender despite overwhelming odds. For holding the gate until reinforcements arrived. For embodying the finest traditions of the naval service. Vance accepted his medal with quiet dignity. Shook hands with the admiral presenting it. Saluted. Returned to formation. Then Kara's name was called. Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes, United States Army. She walked forward on legs that felt uncertain. Stood at attention before the admiral. Listened as her citation was read. Silver Star for conspicuous gallantry. For engaging enemy forces despite grievous wounds. For eliminating multiple hostile combatants. For killing an enemy commander who had orchestrated the attack. For saving the lives of American service members through exceptional courage and skill. The admiral pinned the medal to her uniform. It was heavier than she expected. The weight of metal and ribbon representing something she still was not sure she deserved. The crowd applauded. Kara returned to formation. Stood beside Vance. The ceremony continued. Other awards presented. Other soldiers recognized. But Kara barely heard it. She was thinking about Morrison and Blake and Thomas. About whether they would think she had earned this. Whether they would forgive her for surviving when they had not. After the ceremony, people approached, shaking hands, offering congratulations. Commander Pearson was there. Davis with his parents who had flown in from Oregon. Other instructors from Quantico. Students from her training program who had been granted permission to attend. Then an older couple approached. Late 50s. Grief etched deep in their faces. The woman was clutching a photograph. A young man in Army uniform. Private First Class Jeremy Caldwell. Staff Sergeant Reyes, the woman said. Her voice was steady but fragile. I am Rebecca Caldwell. This is my husband Thomas. We are Jeremy's parents. Kara felt her heart stop. She had known they would be here. Had prepared herself. But nothing could have prepared her for the reality of facing them. Of seeing the loss in their eyes. Mrs. Caldwell, Kara said. Mr. Caldwell, I am so sorry. Your son deserved better. He deserved to be here today. He deserved the career and the life that was stolen from him. Rebecca Caldwell shook her head, reached out, and took Kara's hand. Do not apologize, she said. You tried to save him. You found the evidence. You fought for the truth when everyone else wanted to bury it. You gave us justice when we thought we would never get it. Thomas Caldwell spoke for the first time. For 3 years we blamed you, he said quietly. We believe what they told us. That you had been negligent. That you had failed to properly inspect the weapon. That our son died because you were not good enough at your job. He paused. We were wrong. And we are sorry. Kara felt tears streaming down her face. Could not stop them. Could not speak. We received a letter last month, Rebecca continued, from the Secretary of the Army, explaining what really happened, explaining that Jeremy was murdered, that you were the only one who tried to stop it, that you sacrificed your career to fight for the truth. She held up the photograph. Jeremy believed in the Army, believed in his instructors, believed in you. He would want us to thank you for never giving up on him. I wish I could have done more, Kara whispered. Wish I could have protected him. You could not have known, Thomas said. Evil hides, pretends to be normal. You were 25 years old, facing a system designed to protect itself. The fact that you kept fighting anyway, that takes a kind of courage most people never have. They stayed and talked for a while. Shared stories about Jeremy, about his childhood, his decision to join the Army, his excitement about being assigned to Fort Benning, his respect for his instructors, especially Kara, who he had mentioned in letters home as the best shooter he had ever seen. When they finally left, Rebecca hugged Kara, whispered in her ear, "Thank you for remembering him, for making sure his death mattered, for being the kind of soldier he believed the Army was full of." After they were gone, Kara stood alone for a moment, trying to process, trying to accept that forgiveness she had not known she needed. Davis found her there. "You good?" he asked. "I think so," Kara said. "I think maybe for the first time in 3 years I actually am." The reception that followed was held in the base officers' club. Kara found herself surrounded by SEALs from Chief Vance's team. They treated her like one of their own, shared stories from Rattlesnake, thanked her for the lives she had saved, told her that Morrison and Blake and Thomas would have been proud to fight beside her. Petty Officer Chen approached. His right hand was bandaged, healing from the injury that had cost him 2 fingers, but he could still shake with his left. "Staff Sergeant," he said, "I wanted to tell you something. Before Rattlesnake, I thought support troops were just there to make our jobs easier. I did not respect them, did not see them as real warriors. You changed that. You showed me that anyone can be a warrior if they have the right training and the right heart. Karasimidit. You fought just as hard as I did," she said. "All of you did. I just had different skills. Skills we all need to learn," Chen said, "which is why I am requesting a transfer to your program. I want to help train the next generation. I want to make sure no support troop ever feels helpless again." Kara felt pride swell in her chest. "We would be honored to have you," she said. As the evening wore on, Kara found herself standing outside on a balcony overlooking the base. The sun was setting. The sky was painted orange and red. In the distance, she could hear the sounds of training. Soldiers preparing, learning, becoming better. Vance joined her, handed her a beer. "To Morrison, Blake, and Thomas," he said. "To Morrison, Blake, and Thomas," Kara echoed. They clinked bottles, drank. "You know," Vance said after a moment, "when I first heard your voice on the radio that day, I thought you were crazy. A cook with a rifle. I figured you would get yourself killed in the first 5 minutes." "So did I," Kara admitted. "But you did not," Vance said. "You fought. You adapted. You won. That is what separates warriors from everyone else. Not the uniform, not the training. The refusal to quit when quitting is the logical choice." "I had good examples," Kara said. "You and your team. You could have surrendered, could have saved yourselves. You did not, because some things matter more than survival," Vance said. "Honor, duty, the men beside you." He looked at her. "You understand that now. That is why you came back, why you testified, why you're teaching again. Not because it was safe, because it was right." Kara thought about that, about the journey from Fort Benning to FOB Rattlesnake to here, about the person she had been and the person she had become, about the choice between hiding and fighting, between safety and purpose. "I spent 3 years being invisible," she said, "trying to disappear, trying to forget who I was. It did not work. You cannot run from yourself. Eventually, you have to decide if you're going to be who you actually are or if you're going to die pretending to be someone else." "And who are you?" Vance asked. "A soldier," Kara said simply. "A teacher, someone who believes that training saves lives, that truth matters, that fighting for what is right is worth the cost." She looked at the medal on her chest. "Someone who refuses to quit even when the world tells her she should." Vance nodded. "Then you're exactly where you belong." If you enjoyed the story, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, character, or if you have had a similar situation happen to you before. They stood there together as the sun set. 2 warriors who had fought the same battle, who had survived when others had not, who carried the weight of those losses but refused to be crushed by them. Inside, the reception was winding down. People were saying goodbyes, making plans to stay in touch. The ceremony was over. The medals were awarded. The dead were honored. Life was moving forward. Kara finished her beer, straightened her uniform, touched the silver star one more time, then turned toward the door, toward the future, toward the students waiting for her at Quantico, toward the program she was building, toward the next soldier who would need the skills she could teach. Staff Sergeant Kara Reyes walked back into the light, no longer hiding, no longer running, no longer pretending to be anyone other than exactly who she was. A warrior, a teacher, a survivor, a woman who had been broken by lies and rebuilt by truth, who had been erased and refused to stay gone, who had found her purpose in the ruins of a burning base and carried it forward into a life worth living. The cook was dead. The sniper had returned, and she was never disappearing again. Not for anyone, not for anything, not ever. This was her life now, and she was ready for it.